Imagine this, you're holding a shiny silver coin, a symbol of power and stability that built one of the greatest empires in history. But over time, that coin gets lighter, cheaper, until it's basically worthless junk metal. Prices skyrocket, people starve, armies mutiny, and the empire crumbles not from barbarian hordes alone, but from a financial rot that started in the treasury. That's the story of ancient Rome's currency collapse, and it's not just dusty history. It's a chilling warning for our modern world, where governments still play the same dangerous games with money. Today on Real Financial Truth, we're diving deep into how Rome's denarius went from solid silver to economic poison, the chaos it unleashed, and why it matters more than ever in 2025 America. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why protecting your wealth isn't optional, it's survival. Let's start at the beginning. The Roman Republic first minted the denarius around 211 BC during the Second Punic War against Carthage. It was a small silver coin weighing about 4.5 grams, with a purity of around 95 to 98% silver. This wasn't just pocket change, it was the backbone of Rome's economy. Soldiers got paid in denarii, taxes were collected in them, and merchants across the Mediterranean trusted them because they held real, intrinsic value. Under Emperor Augustus, who ruled from 27 BC to AD 14 and kicked off the Pax Romana, a golden age of peace and prosperity, the denarius was at its peak, still about 95% silver and weighing a standard 3.9 grams. Romans could count on it, it represented the empire's might and reliability. But empires expand, and expansion costs money. Massive armies, sprawling infrastructure like roads and aqueducts, endless wars, Rome's budget ballooned. By the 1st century AD, cracks were showing. The turning point came with Emperor Nero in AD 64. Facing huge expenses from rebuilding Rome after the Great Fire and his own lavish spending, Nero debased the denarius for the first time significantly. He reduced its weight from about 3.4 grams to 3.3 grams and dropped the silver content to around 90%, mixing in more copper. It might seem minor, but it set a precedent. Emperors realized they could quietly erode the currency's value instead of raising taxes, which always sparked revolts. Fast forward to the 2nd century, under Trajan and Hadrian, the denarius held steady at around 93% silver, but the pressure mounted. By the reign of Septimius Severus around AD 193 to 211, silver purity dipped below 50% as Rome fought civil wars and defended borders against Persians and Germanic tribes. His son Caracalla took it further in AD 215, introducing the Antoninianus, a double denarius that was supposed to be worth twice as much but contained only about 1.5 times the silver. It was a scam in coin form, and people noticed. By the mid-3rd century, under Emperor Gallienus, AD 253 to 268, the denarius was a shadow of itself, less than 5% silver, basically a bronze coin with a thin silver wash that rubbed off in your hand. Imagine getting paid in what looks like money but feels like a counterfeit. This debasement wasn't random. It was a desperate response to the crisis of the 3rd century, from AD 235 to 284, a nightmare of nearly 50 years with over 20 emperors, many assassinated after months in power. Invasions from all sides, plagues wiping out populations, civil wars tearing the empire apart. Rome needed cash fast, so they minted millions of these worthless coins. The result? Rampant inflation. A modius of wheat, about 8.7 liters, that cost 1 denarius in the 1st century might cost hundreds by the 3rd. Soldiers demanded pay raises, leading to more debasement. Merchants refused the coins, turning to barter or gold. Farms were abandoned as taxes became impossible to pay with devalued money. Trade networks collapsed, cities shrank, and the economy ground to a halt. It wasn't just numbers on a ledger, this destroyed lives. Families couldn't afford bread, veterans lost their savings, and trust in the government evaporated. In a last-ditch effort to fix the mess, Emperor Diocletian issued the Edict on Maximum Prices in AD 301. This was a massive decree fixing prices for over 1,200 goods and services, from barley to boots to barber fees. Violate it, say, by charging more for a loaf of bread and you faced the death penalty. Diocletian blamed greedy merchants for the inflation, but the real culprit was the debased currency. The edict backfired spectacularly. Black markets exploded as sellers hid goods rather than sell at a loss. Shortages worsened, official trade stalled, and enforcement was spotty at best. Within a few years, it was largely ignored or repealed. If that sounds familiar, it's because price controls have failed every time they're tried, from ancient Rome to 1970s America. Diocletian's reforms helped stabilize the military and administration, but the economy was still reeling. Enter Constantine the Great, who became sole emperor by AD 324. In AD 312, he introduced the solidus, a new gold coin weighing about 4.45 grams of nearly pure gold. Unlike the denarius, it wasn't debased, its consistency restored faith in Roman money. The solidus circulated widely, stabilizing trade and lasting over 700 years in the Byzantine Empire. But for the Western Roman Empire, it was too late. The damage from centuries of debasement had weakened the core. Armies couldn't be funded reliably, provinces rebelled, and barbarians like the Visigoths sacked Rome in AD 410. The empire didn't fall overnight, it unraveled thread by thread, with currency collapse as a major accelerator. If this history is hitting home and making you rethink your own finances, hit that like button right now and subscribe to Real Financial Truth. We uncover these truths every week to help you stay ahead. So, why does this ancient tale matter to us in the United States today? Because the patterns repeat. Governments debase money to fund deficits, elites protect themselves, and everyday people get crushed. Look at Weimar Germany after World War I, burdened by massive reparations from the Treaty of Versailles. 132 billion gold marks, they printed papier marks to pay debts and support strikes against French occupation of the Ruhr in 1923. Hyperinflation exploded. A loaf of bread that cost 1 mark in 1918 hit 200 billion marks by November 1923. People wheeled barrows of cash to buy groceries, burned money for heat because it was cheaper than firewood, and savings vanished overnight. Debtors won as loans became worthless, but pensioners starved. This economic despair fueled political extremism, paving the way for the Nazis' rise in 1933. Sound like a cautionary tale? It is. Fast forward to Zimbabwe in the 2000s. Under Robert Mugabe, land reforms seized farms from white owners, crashing agricultural output. Facing deficits, sanctions, and corruption, the government printed Zimbabwean dollars wildly. By 2008, inflation peaked at 89.76 trillion %, prices doubled every 24 hours. A single egg cost billions, shops updated prices hourly. The currency became so worthless they printed $100 trillion notes, now souvenirs. In 2009, Zimbabwe ditched its dollar for USD and rand, but the damage lingers: poverty, unemployment, and lost trust. Again, policy-driven inflation destroyed a nation. Now, closer to home, the United States in 1971. President Richard Nixon shocked the world by ending the dollar's convertibility to gold, closing the gold window under the Bretton Woods system. The dollar became pure fiat, backed by faith in the government, not metal. Why? Rising deficits from Vietnam War and Great Society programs, plus foreign nations demanding gold for dollars. Since then, the money supply has exploded, M2 from $700 billion in 1971 to over $21 trillion today. The effect? Steady debasement of purchasing power. A dollar in 1971 buys what about 15 cents does now, according to inflation calculators, meaning it's lost over 85% of its value. Wages rise, but costs for housing, education, and healthcare outpace them. Governments borrow trillions, central banks print during crises like 2008 or COVID, and inflation acts as a hidden tax. Stock markets boom for the wealthy, but middle-class savings erode. We're not at hyperinflation, but the Roman playbook is in motion, gradual debasement disguised as policy. What makes this scarier in 2025 is the global scale. Every major currency is fiat, debts are astronomical, US national debt tops $35 trillion, and central banks coordinate. A crisis here ripples everywhere, as we saw in 2008. Cryptocurrencies and digital assets offer alternatives, but fiat fragility remains. If these parallels are making you not alone, drop a comment below. What's your biggest worry about inflation today? And if you're getting value from this, subscribe to Real Financial Truth. We break down these financial realities to empower you. As individuals, we can't stop governments, but we can protect ourselves. First, recognize inflation as intentional policy, not accident. It's how debts get inflated away at your expense. Second, build real wealth, invest in assets like real estate, stocks, precious metals, or skills that produce value. Diversify beyond fiat, consider gold or Bitcoin as hedges. Third, stay informed. History shows stability is illusion. Romans in Augustus's era never dreamed their denarius would fail. Americans in 1971 didn't foresee today's erosion. Prepare for volatility, build emergency funds, reduce debt, and think long-term. In the end, Rome's currency crisis teaches that when money loses integrity, society follows. Trust erodes, economies fracture, and power shifts. We've seen it in empires past and nations recent. Ignoring it invites repeat. But understanding it? That's your edge. Thanks for watching Real Financial Truth, where we expose the financial truths that matter. If this episode opened your eyes, smash that like button, subscribe for more, and comment your thoughts. Let's build a community ready for what's next. See you in the next one.